Hi, this is David Miles Huber, and today I'd like to talk about M.2 SSD drives, basically. Most everybody uses hard drives, spinning disks, the hard drive disks. And of course, in the last X number of years, SSDs have come on, and then M.2 SSDs have come on. My motherboard is an Asus motherboard. It's about 4 years old, 4 years old, I would think, and has actually two M.2 slots on the motherboard itself. And I went out and I actually got this. I was like, M.2, oh wow, cool, oh cool. And I got this M.2, this Hyper from Asus, same company. Hyper M.2 X16 card V2, okay? And it actually allows for you to put 4 M.2 cards onto a PCIe slot and stick that into the computer. So all of this sounds good, except M.2, just like the USB-C, which is awesome, but USB-C is a connector form. And in USB-C, I think there are 26 different flavors of USB-C. In M.2, it is likewise a factor form. It's a form. It's a size. And in M.2, I think there are about 8 different possibilities of M.2. And here's where things start getting crazy. And people don't tell us about this stuff. I certainly didn't. I was going M.2. Oh, an M.2 is an M.2. And I was going SATA cards. You know, I've lived with SATA cards for, I mean, I'm relatively intelligent, been using computers for a long time. It's like, okay, SATA cards, a SATA M.2 must be the right one to get. So I got SATA M.2s, which happens to be also, to add to the confusion, is an M-type slot of M.2. Thank you very much. And so on my motherboard, one of the slots, M.2 slots, allows for you to put a SATA or a PCIe M.2 into it. This is going to get crazy. I'm sorry. And so I got the SATA and put the SATA into my motherboard, and that became my C drive. Worked perfect. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Got the HyperCard, got the Asus HyperCard, which allows for the 4 M.2s. And I put in a SATA drive into that, and of course, nothing. Second drive on my motherboard, put in the SATA card, nothing. Okay. Is something wrong with it? Do I need to add drivers? What's going on? On the box, they don't tell you anything about SATA. They don't tell you, they don't tell you about the MVME, which is the PCIe. So PCIe M.2s, PCIe M.2 drives, are also called MVME, non-volatile memory PCIe, Express, sorry. And so, and that uses a B-type slot. And so, so hence you can see the complete crazy confusion. And a B slot will not go into okay, let's use normal language here, try to. A SATA M.2 card will go into a PCIe. No, a SATA will not go into a PCIe. A PCIe will go into a SATA. Thank you very much. I guess that allows, because if you have the choice of like on my motherboard on one of the slots, you could do either SATA or PCIe. So the moral of what I'm really trying to talk about is try to be aware of this stuff, because as M.2s become more and more common, which they are, the industry is sort of not telling us what these things are. how they're to be applied. You look at motherboard manuals, and they're like, usually will use older language. So you're like, what? And so if something's PCIe, it's going to be an MVME or a PCIe card. If you're going to use it external, like a hard drive, just like a hard drive, it's going to be SATA, because SATA is the format for. So here's the simple thing. Let's do this again. The SATA format is straightforward for when you want drives, just plain old drives. If you're going to be on the PCIe bus, then you're going to need an MVME, or why didn't they call it PCIe M.2s? I have no idea. They had to confuse it. So you're going to want a PCIe compatible card. And to mix those up is just going to cause trouble. Okay, fine and good. So I got a 2 terabyte MVME PCIe card that I put into my 4-slot unit. Put that into the unit. Put that in the card, put that into the computer, hunky-dory, works perfect. Boom, all of a sudden I have a 2 terabyte PCIe, that is MVME, M.2 card. Worked great. I had a SATA 2 terabyte, and I sold that and actually got another equivalent, the same model of MVME 2 terabyte. So I would put it into the card, the card slot that has 4 possible slots. I was going, okay, is it going to show up as 2 separate drives? Is it going to show up as a single drive, RAID 0? No idea. Let's try. But I had the smarts to back up the data beforehand, which whenever you're doing a hardware change like that, back up your data beforehand. Because I had 3 really important directories on that original 2 terabyte MVME M.2 card. And so I made sure that everything was backed up before I made the change. Put in the second card, which would be 4 terabytes or 2 terabytes. I had no idea which, because the documentation tells you nothing. Literally nothing. And I put it in, and all hell broke loose. The second card, even though it was straight from the factory, has never been formatted, had nothing on it, showed up as having data on it, which it didn't. The original card sort of showed up as had data. However, a really important directory went away, gone. Again, like I said, I did my backup. Always do a backup before you do something like this. So I guess what I'm saying is, you know, when you think about just normal hard drives, whenever you start playing around with these M.2s, don't always assume that, oh, it's just a hard drive, it's as solid and stable as a hard drive, it's going to work just perfect. All hell could break loose in a nanosecond. And so just beware. Do as much research as you can. Make sure that you know the difference between a SATA and a PCIe M.2. That is PCIe, which equals NVMe M.2, and just sort of try to know your P's and Q's before you do this stuff, because it can bite you faster than anything. So I'm just giving you a fair warning to learn about this stuff before you jump in, especially if you're using multiple drives on a PCIe bus, because I still have no idea. I'm going to have to learn and figure out what went wrong, whatever. I'm going to have to call the company, because there's zero documentation on this stuff. Quite often I'll call the company and they'll never mention the difference between SATA and NVMe. They'll never say, are you trying to plug a SATA drive into this? You know that won't work. They'll never say that. So it's a relative nightmare. And so just beware and be aware. All right. Again, this is David Miles Huber. You can catch my music at davidmileshuber.bandcamp.com, also on my website, davidmileshuber.com. And I just really wish you well on this, and thank you for listening. Take care. Bye-bye.